So students, the next shortcut key you will have to learn is the use of shift and the arrow key with it. So if you are in this cell D11 and you want to go up, you don't need to use the mouse. You can simply use your keyboard. So press and hold shift and use your up key, the upward arrow. So you will be able to select the entire column. Now you release it, it comes back to its original form. In other words, the highlighting gets toggled. So there are no more highlighting. Now, if you want to select, say, column number H, the entire column, you can simply press and hold shift and select the entire column. And when you release it and you press any other key, specifically the arrow key, it goes, say, if you are pressing the right arrow key, it goes exactly to the adjoining cell, that is to tang, that is to H11. So in this case it's going to be I11. So shift, left arrow, right arrow, and up arrow and down arrow comes in handy, and it is always useful to use them. Now imagine that you have interviewed these people and you're very happy about one particular candidate, say Demelza, and you wanted to recommend to your board of directors to give her a high pay or something like that. So you want that particular name to feature exclusively from the given list. So what you got to do now, instead of using the mouse and pulling and dragging, you can simply go to that particular cell where the candidate is present, press and hold shift and press the space bar. The entire row will be highlighted. Now you can Control C, copy it, come back to the next cell, press shift and space, and now you press Control V, the candidate would be printed, the entire information. So shift and space bar comes in handy. So that's a shortcut key. So the next important key is how do we select the column. Now imagine you got 20,000 data items in this particular last name column and you want to select it. Now it's not easy to highlight everything using the mouse. 20,000 data points is not going to be easy. So for that, we got a very important shortcut key called as Control and Space. So just click on Control Space and then you Control C, Control, that's for copying, right? Now take the cursor wherever you want the items to be pasted. Now you cannot paste it in this particular cell. Excel will say that the cell is too small. So what we need to do is we need to again press and hold Control and Space. Now the entire column is highlighted and then you do the Control V. Now these shortcut keys come in very handy, and not only that, it helps us to get the job done. So click enter and then you can just click one of the arrow keys, the left arrow, right arrow, and so the highlighting perishes. So that is a very important key, Control and Space used for column selection, and shift and space is used for row selection. Now the next obvious question would come to the minds of students is that what would it happen if I were to press Control and shift and space all three together? Well, that's a very good question. Now what happens is that when you press Control, shift and space, the entire sheet gets selected, and probably you can copy the entire sheet and go and make a new sheet. And similarly, you can't paste the entire sheet in a cell, so you need to Control and shift and space and then press Control V. The entire sheet gets pasted there. So that is a very important tool, which is Control, shift and space. So click enter, there you go. So the next important key you got to know is about Control plus home key. Now imagine you are on a table which has got several hundreds of columns. You are at the last column and at the bottommost cell. Say, let us imagine this to be that cell. Now you want to go to the first cell in the first column, or in other words, you want to basically go to the starting point of this particular row. So I'm over here. I want to go to the starting point of this row. Now, instead of course, there are many ways you can go. You can use the arrow key, you can use the mouse, you can use this bar, but there is one way by which you can go to the first cell in this particular row by using Control and Home. Now when you do that, it goes to the first cell in that particular row. Imagine I was over here and I want to go to the first cell of that particular row. Just you press Control and Home. Now this comes in handy. It's even more faster than using the arrow key or this particular bar, this toolbar, or even the mouse. This is very important because whenever you're handling thousands of data and you want to make some changes or you want to make some observations, this Control and Home will be very effective. And on the contrary, just as I am here and I'm pressing Control Home, I go to the first cell of that particular row. If you want to go back to where you started from, all you need to do is to press Control and End. So remember students, Control Home takes you to the first cell of that particular row, and Control End takes you back from where you started. So these two important keys will come in much handy. When it comes to shortcut keys, students, there's another important shortcut key you'll have to know. Now, to most people, they would say that Excel's rows are infinite, but it is not so. And they will also say the same thing, that Excel columns are infinite, they keep going on. But the reason that they say is that because they have not gone to the end. In other words, they have not known this shortcut key. Had they known the shortcut key, then they would never say that. Now this key is Control and down arrow. Now when you press Control and down arrow, you will go to the end of the working sheet. And in this case, you can see that the column represents the millionth cell, with the entire reading being 1,048,576. That is the number of, that's the last row, in fact, in the Excel sheet. Now, if you want to go to the top, to the first cell, press Control and up arrow. You will go to the first cell. So this is for navigating between the rows. Now, if you want to go to the end of the column, press Control and right arrow. It will take you to the extreme, which is XFD. If you want to go back, press Control and left arrow. It will go to the starting cell. Now, having mentioned the Control up arrow and down arrow, you should also know the special features of page up and page down. Now, using the left arrow, right arrow, and the up arrow, down arrow, you will be able to move just one cell at a time. But with page up and page down, your skip would be a little bit further than that. Say, if I were to press page down, depending upon the Excel version that you use, Excel skips. In this case, Excel is skipping 25 cells approximately. And if I were to press again, in this case, 30 cells are skipped approximately. Now, the next general question comes up would be, what if I were to navigate towards the right and towards the left? Because I have just shown you the page up and page down. So that is basically going along the rows, right? Now, what if you would want to go along the columns? What should I do? So there is a shortcut key for that, which will allow you to move across the columns. For that, we need to press Alt and page down. The moment you press page down, you will move alongside the columns or across the columns. So if I were to press Alt and page down again, your navigation will be across the columns. Now pressing back page up, you will come back. So Alt and page up, it will bring you back to where you started. So this comes in very handy. So students, this is a very important key that you got to know. It's a shortcut key. Now, if you would want to close this worksheet, if you want to close this, then usually what we would do, we would either go to the close button using the mouse and then we can close it off. But there is two ways by which we can use a keyboard and close it. Now, if we were to press Alt F C automatically it will ask you whether you want to save it or you want to just cancel it or just exit. So this is an option. So I don't want to save it, so I just cancel it, and I'm just giving a demonstration. So remember, Alt FC. When you press Alt FC, there is a dialog box which will tell you if you want to save it or if you don't want to save it or you just want to cancel it. So you can navigate using the arrow keys. Now in this case I'm using 3 keys, Alt, F and C. So you have to press and hold down all these 3 keys. So Alt, F, C. So first comes F and then comes C. In other words, the hierarchy would be Alt, F and C. So press and hold it and you will be able to get the dialog box. Alternatively, you will be able to achieve this with Control and W. Now if you were to press Control W, immediately this dialog box would be displayed to you and you will be able to make the choice. So this is more faster than pressing Alt and FC. So remember, if you want to close a sheet, just press Control and W. Immediately this dialog box would be displayed to you and you can make your choice.